Hi everybody. Today I'm going to teach you all about methods. Methods are handy little pieces of code that you can call to run over and over again. You'll see a lot more about how helpful they are when we start writing our code. So let's get to it. Here is a quick example of the code that we're going to be making. As you can see, it gives a little bit of instruction at the top. And what we're essentially going to do is we're going to draw and show a random card from a deck of cards. And we'll also have the option to print out all of the cards that we have left. So if I press 1, it shows the 4 of diamonds this time and says the card value. And press any key to continue. If I do another card, here's a new random one, 5 of diamonds, 4 of hearts. One great thing about this code, Jack of clubs, is that I will never get the same card again because I'm going to be removing them from the list. So if I show the remaining cards, it prints them all out, and you notice that there are only 47 left of the 52 card deck. Now, let me show you how I made it. Before we get too deep into this code, I do want to give 2 important disclaimers. First one is when I go through this code, I'm going to be going through it very, very fast, which means keep in mind that this is a video. You can pause and resume however you would like. So don't think you have to go as fast as me. And next thing I want to mention is the fact that given the fact that this is an intro class, I'm going to give you an easy working way of doing things. It's not going to be the absolute best, but it is going to definitely work for you. And if you want to build on it later, you certainly can. So, first of all, I have my purpose of this code. This code is supposed to allow the user to either print the cards left in a deck or allow the user to draw a random card from the deck. And there will be 3 methods. The first one will explain the code. The other method will draw a random card, showing the card and its value, and remove it from the deck. And then the final one is a method that will print all the cards left. So you'll notice down here we have 3 separate areas. Usually we only do 2. We've got our global variables, we have our main code, and we have a new one called methods. Now let's just start out very, very simple, and I'm going to create a method. Void explanation. Inside of explanation, I'm just going to explain what the code does, and that's going to just come out with console write lines. So, welcome to the random card generator. And some more console write lines. I'll just explain again what's happening. This handy app will allow you to draw any random card from a deck of cards and give the card value. We'll do one final console write line to give the rest of the information. The app will also remove that card to avoid doubles. Perfect. All right, now, right now, if I were to run this code, I have this method, which again is a piece of code that can happen over and over again. However, if I never ask it to happen, it will not happen. So this is almost like having some machine but never actually operating with it. Oh, and another important thing is anytime you create a method, you do want to, above it, explain the purpose of it. You'll usually also give the return and input if those are there, but this one does not have those. So all I'm going to do is explain what this does. I should actually say this method will explain how the app works. And again, if I run it right now, you're not going to see anything happen at all because I did not actually call this code. The code exists, but again, I have not called it. So yeah, I see a blank screen. Let's go ahead and call it. I'm going to do that inside the main code. If I run it, what's going to happen is when the main code runs, it's going to do the explanation. So it will run through this code and then come back, and since there's nothing left for it to do, it will just end there. There it is, looking good. If I want to run the exact same code twice, I don't know why I would want to do that, except to show you guys how that works. But if I wanted to print out 2 times, I could just call it again. And there we go. Prints out the exact same thing 2 times. And if I want to do any extra time, I would always just print out explanation. So let's move on to adding another bit of code. Now, the next bit of code is going to require some variables. I'm going to add my deck, and I'm going to add a user response. But let's just kind of start out by adding the deck. Now, in order to do this, it would take me a little while to put it on the screen, which means I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to give everybody some time, but you're probably going to want to pause the video very, very soon. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a list. This was copied and pasted in. And as a list of the card images, this is a string list. And the reason why I decided to use a list is because I want to be able to remove values, and I can't do that with an array. I can do it with a list. And I'm guessing everybody that looks at this probably wonders where I got these really fancy characters. In order to find those, I just did a quick Google search. I'll show that to you right now. If you type playing card suit ASCII, and then look at this one right here, playing cards in Unicode, here are all of my playing card values. I can just copy and paste those in. There it is. And then next thing I want is I'm going to create a second list. This one is going to be an int list that has all of the corresponding card values. I'm going to copy and paste that again just to save time in the video. You guys can pause and enter all this information. But there we go. I have all of my spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs. And I have all the corresponding values here. An ace I made worth 11, and then at 2, 3, 4, all the way through 10. And since I plan on using this for blackjack, I said that a jack, a queen, and a king are all also worth 10. Again, this would be a very good time to pause the video so that you can get all this information down. I'm going to go ahead and move ahead. Some extra things. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a method that draws a random card. So in order to draw a random card, I'm going to need a few extra global variables. First one is, of course, the random variable, or I should say random object. In order to create it and use random values, I need to create a random object. The way I've been describing this, just for simplicity's sake, is this is like the magic book of random. In order to cast a random spell, I need to have that magic book. There's a little more to it, but that's a very simple way of explaining for now. Outside of that, I'm going to add a couple of other variables. The first one will be a string, which I'll call user response, because I'm going to add user interactivity to this. And the second one is going to be an int, which I'm going to call card index. That will come in handy later, but really essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a random value for my card index. And the reason why I want this variable is because I'm going to want to use the exact same random value for both the card image and the card value, and I'm going to be doing the exact same thing for removing these values. So let's get to that. We're going to create a brand new method, and this method I'm going to call drawCard. I'm going to create this one the exact same way. There are different ways that I could do this, but since all my variables are global, I'm just going to keep it very, very simple. First thing I'm going to want to do is get a random card index. So card index is going to equal, here's my magic spell for random, it is random.next, and I want it to create some value between 0 and the number of cards that I have. Not that it matters because these should be the same size, but I'm going to go between 0 and the count in the card images. This is the number of values in the list, minus 1. Okay, then next I am going to just print out what the user ended up getting. Maybe a new line. And say you drew a, well, what did you draw? This will be the card image at the card index, which is a random value. And to tell the user what that is worth, I'll say that card has a value of, now this will be, instead of the card image, the card value list at the card index. So the card image pertains to all of my images, and the actual value, or card value, pertains to the values that correspond to said card. These do have to match, otherwise the values will be off. And then the final thing I'm going to do, you won't actually see this happening yet because I'm not printing out my deck, but I'm going to want to remove those cards from each of those lists. And it's very, very simple to do that. First of all, I'm going to say card image dot remove at. And what remove at does is it will remove the card at the card index. So this card will be shown and then disposed of. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for the card value. So yes, these commands remove the card and card value from the list. All right, now remember, this will not actually happen unless we call it. Right now, if we run our code, even though we add all this extra code, it doesn't actually start yet. So let's go ahead and pull that in. Maybe I'll put this inside of a while loop so that we just run this code indefinitely. And let's just make this really, really simple. How about we draw the card? So I'm going to call draw card. And then after we draw the card, let's give the user the chance to draw another. But I like adding this to the end of my code so that it doesn't get cluttered. We're going to clear the screen. I'm just going to type press any key to continue. In order to have the user just type in a key, console.readKey. The only real reason for that is to slow down the code. and then we will clear the console. Console.clear. I'll clear the text from the console. And this one, we'll just wait for the user to type a key. All right. Right now, we only have the explanation running once. We did not put it inside of our while loop. I think I prefer it that way because once you see it, you don't really need to keep rereading it. But draw card will keep happening over and over again until I end this code. Or until I get an error, but we won't run it that long. Let's go. All right, so here we see our explanation, and it says we happen to draw ace of clubs. We're lucky. That card has a value of 11. Press any key to continue, and it should give me a brand new card with its corresponding value. 9 of diamonds, 10 of hearts, king of diamonds, queen of diamonds. Remember, all face cards in blackjack have a value of 10. And you may not notice this. However, I do know that this is happening. We are not seeing the exact same card again, which is actually exactly what we want. And the nice thing is, as we run it, our values have always matched up. So everything is looking good. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more. One simple one is we'll add something to print out our list. Now, printing out lists is something that we do an awful lot in coding. Sometimes it's just to see what is inside of it. So creating a method for this is going to be really, really helpful. I'm just going to call this one print deck. And again, I'm keeping all of these very, very simple. I forgot I really should be commenting on what these methods do. Print deck, what I want this method to do, it will print out every single card. And I'm also going to want to show how many cards are left. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to print out my array. The most common way of doing that is, of course, with a for loop. I could use a for each loop, but we haven't gotten really into those yet. That happened to be exactly what I wanted, but for my for loop, it's going to start at 0, which is my first index, and it's going to keep going up until the last count of my card images, and it's going to go through every single value. A real important thing I do want to mention is, hopefully you guys know there are 52 cards in a deck. So this would work it would work as long as no card is removed. Since we are removing cards, it's going to be a problem. So I do not want to do that. The next time I run this code after like a card is removed, everything will, I'll get some sort of error. I'll get a out of bounds error. So I'm going to put it back to the card image count. And all I'm going to do is print out that picture. At each index. So the reason why I'm using I is because of the way the for loop works. The first time the for loop runs, I is 0, so it will print out my first card image. and then at the end, I goes up by 1. So I being 1, it will print out the second image, and it will keep going up until I reach the last card inside the deck. Now all I want to do is tell the user how many cards are left. So console.writeLine, there are card image.count. Cards left in the deck. Add a space so that there's a clear gap between all the cards that were printed and this line of code. All right, again, just like our previous one, this will not actually run until I call it. So in order to call it, since I've got 2 separate things, let's make this look a little bit better. I'm going to prompt the user to type in something to either draw a card or print out the deck. What would you like to do? To make this easy, let's have the user type in a number. And those 2 options will be 1 for draw a new card, and the second option will be to show the remaining cards. And then in order to allow the user to type in, I'm going to use console.readline. But keep in mind, writing console.readline doesn't really do much. I mean, it allows the user to type, but like the computer will have no clue what that means. So that's why I have this string right here. I'm going to say user response equals console readline. So that will make the user response equal whatever was typed in. And right here, I'm just going to add some really simple basic logic. I'm going to say if user response was the value 1, I do have to put it inside of quotes because user response is a string. I'm checking if those 2 strings are the same. And if they did that, how about I have them draw a card? And then how about I have an else if user response is 2. Visual Studio knew what I was going to type, and they're right. Print the deck. Draw a random card. Print the deck. And then how about I have a final else, which would happen if the user did not type in 1 or 2. I'll just have the console maybe troll the user a little bit. You're a bit daft, aren't you? That's the Anton Chigurh insult. Please type in a valid number only. And I'm going to add just a little bit of extra lines so that there's a clear issue there. Okay, perfect. I think that's about everything I'm going to want for this code. So let's go ahead and run it. But before we do, I just want to briefly go back over everything that's going to happen in the main code. We're going to first run the explanation the first time this runs, and then go into this while loop. The first thing that will happen in the while loop is console read line will tell the user what to do. It's really asking the user to type in either a 1 or a 2. Here's where the user is allowed to actually type something. If the user typed a 1, draw a card. If they typed a 2, print the deck. Otherwise, insult the user and tell them to type in something new. And then it will tell you to press any key to continue, clear the screen, and everything will happen again. Let's run it. Perfect. Okay. Do we want to draw a random card or show the remaining cards? Let's just draw one right now. Okay, 6 of diamonds. Another one. 9 of hearts. And this time, let's show the remaining cards. Remember, there are 52 in a deck, so if I print them out, I should only have 50 left. Looking good. If I keep running, let's take 2 more. How about 3 more? Now there should only be 47 cards left. Let's print these out. There they are. Excellent. I can see like I drew that ace of hearts. I know there are a few others missing, but I can't remember which ones they are. All right. That is just about everything. Now, for everybody that is interested, I want to add one quick bonus piece of code. That bonus piece of code is going to be an element where I actually print out a full card instead of just that like card value like you see right here. So in order to do that one, an easy way to do it is to do it with a method. And this method will be a little bit more advanced than my other methods. Not much, but a little bit. I'm going to call this one card picture. And the thing that's going to make this slightly more advanced is I'm going to take a variable in. I'm going to call it index value. And the idea is whatever the index value is, it's going to put that image and, well, really just that image into the card. I'll show you what I mean, but really the only good way of doing this is to have a parameter that I pass in. And I'm going to have that happen with drawing the card. So that index will come. Exact same thing with my for loop. I'm going to print it out with that index. So in order to print out my ASCII art, this is going to look a bit unique. There are slightly better ways of doing this. I'm actually going to have a space in the front and a space in the back. I do understand that this is not the most efficient way of doing this whole process. However, I promise you it will work. And then right down here, I'm going to add some extra pieces. So here is kind of my blank card. And then inside of the card, I'm going to want to print the card image. To do that, this is one of the easiest ways I can show to do it. But I'm going to use these squiggly brackets and a 0. That's going to be the first index after my string literal. So I'm going to add a comma, and then the image that I'm going to print out is the card image at the index value that is passed in. And since it's going to take up 2 spaces, I'm going to actually have to delete one of these spaces. Might even need to delete 2. No, I think it's just the one. Just the one. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing in the middle of the card. That's roughly there. I'm going to delete a space. And then same thing at the very bottom right of the card. Delete the space. And I'm going to copy and paste this 2 extra times. Just like that. Okay, now again, this is not going to actually show that image. So in order to do that, I'm going to put that inside of my draw card method. Right after that card index is created, let's show the image. So I'm going to write card picture, which is this method right here. And then what I did here by adding that attribute means I need to add it here. This is called my parameter, and what I pass in is called my argument. So this is going to draw the card at card index value. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing here inside of my print deck. In fact, I don't really need the console write line. I'm going to replace that with card picture. And the index that I'm passing in is going to be I. So let's go ahead and run this, and you should see whenever I end up calling that draw card function, it will get a random value, and it will print out the picture just like this with the value inside. And then it will say the card image, will also say what I drew, remove that card. And then when we print out the deck, it's going to look a little bit different. All it's going to do is show all of those pictures and then say what cards are remaining. Let's go ahead and run it. Draw a random card. 2 of spades. I can see that I have an extra space right there, so let's go ahead and fix that really quick. I'm just going to delete one of those spaces. Yeah, we'll go that way. I'm going to run this again. All right, looking a lot better. Awesome. One thing you guys will see, if I end up getting a 10, since 10 had 3 spaces, it's going to look a little bit different. There is a fix for it. Actually, there are a lot of potential fixes for it. Here's an easy one, though it's going to be employing a little bit more advanced technique that I haven't shown you guys yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check what's called the substring of the image. In order to do that, I'm going to say, okay, if the card image at the index value dot substring between 0 and 2 is not equal to 10. And print all of this. All right, what this means is if the substring, which is a fraction of the string, we're actually going to start at index 0 and go up to index 2 but not include index 2. So what this means is if the first 2 characters in this string are not 10. So if they're not 10, print it normally. let's add an else, which of course means those first two values are 10. We will print out the exact same thing. However, we will get rid of one extra space so that we can accommodate. Now our 10s will look totally normal and every other card will look totally normal. Let's check it out. Draw a random card. Ace of diamonds, very nice. Let's keep going until we get a 10, just to make sure that works. There it is. Our 10 looks great. And let's print out all the cards. Remember, it's going to show an image of every single one. Looking pretty good. Our count still works just fine, and our print out works just fine. That is it for this code. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you had a lot of fun making it. There's a whole lot of extra stuff that you can do to build upon what you've got, and this will be a great build into Blackjack. Happy coding, everybody.